The Western Line. Zones. Zone 5. The steps above Sourton. Overview, Tors and Features. Welcome to the zone videos for the Western Line of Dartmoor. The fifth zone is the Tors inward to the moor from the village of Sourton in the northwest of the Western Line. It consists of these tors, rocks, crags and hills: unknown Prewley Tor, unknown Two Castle Rocks, unknown Prewley East Rock, unknown Iceworks Rocks, East Tor, the Sourton Tors, Shelston Tor, Corn Hole Rocks, Branscombe's Loaf, the Slipper Stones, Corn Tor, Woodcock Tor, Gren Tor, Hunt Tor, Kitty Tor, and Stanger Tor. Best approach and route. To hike parts of this zone, you can head for the village of Sourton, which is on the A386 road that connects Plymouth and Oakhampton. There is a parking on the side of the road toward the moor beside the church. Later parts of this zone are advised to reach from the Rattlebrook tramway, which is accessible from the track behind the Fox and Hounds pub, which is again on the A386 road. From here you can begin to navigate. Feature 45. Unknown Prewley Tor at 348 metres. Our first few minor tors are low-sitting small rocks at Prewley Moor, down to the north of the Sourton Tors. To reach Prewley Moor, head north up the A386 road, passing through Sourton village and then turning off right at a cattle grid before the overpass. Be slow on this rickety road as it immediately crosses the Granite Way cycling and hiking path after the first cattle grid. You pass through a second, and then you have your choice of parking bays on either side of this straight uphill road. I suggest parking at the top of the road, just before it enters a private enclosure for the purposes of this guide. To your right is Prewley Moor, and the Sourton Tors and Corn Ridge are a splendid sight from here. Head into the moor in their direction, leaving the road, but turn left, eastward, as soon as possible, and follow the Farmer's Wall for our first tour of this zone. The top of the first farmer's field past here ends in an entrance to the Two Castles Way, a long-distance track seen going between two farmer field walls. Ignore this and face back to Sourton Tors in the south. In this area directly around you are the rocks of an unnamed tor that I will label Prewley Tor, clustered around a tree. Use these rocks as a starting point to find its neighbours. Feature 46. Unknown Two Castle Rocks. Starting from Prewley Tor, follow the wall of the next farmer's field, skirting you now to the south, until you shortly meet a perpendicular humped line, the remains in the grass of another much older wall with a gap in it. Immediately after passing through, there are three knee-high rocks in the vicinity here. Once again unnamed on maps, I have labelled this the Two Castle Rocks, as it is on the Two Castles Way. Feature 47. Unknown Prewley East Rock, 348 metres. Positioning yourself where we last left off at the break in the old wall, a humped raised grassy line, follow that line west to the next crossroads of tracks. Then take the northeast track away from this, and before you reach boggy grass here, there will be another rock in the gap in the ferns, another unnamed large rock that I have logged as Prewley East Rock. Feature 48. The unknown Iceworks Rocks, 353 metres. From either of the last two minor tors, head south as if you are preparing to climb the Sourton Tors. Before you come to any of these pinnacles, you should pass a cluster of rocks in the grass and ferns almost halfway up the hill. The last unnamed rocks I have found in the area, I have labelled these as the Iceworks Rocks, as A short further walk from these uphill, you will come upon the old Sourton iceworks. These trenches, spoil piles and foundations of ruined buildings used to in fact be the historical location of a place where ice would be made, prepared and traded in large blocks before the advent of electric freezers. It operated between the years of 1875 and 1885. It was placed for access to water, regular frost and wind occurrence, and horse cart access. The large blocks of ice would be transported then to Plymouth for fishmongers to preserve their stock. Feature 49. East Tor. East Tor could easily be mistaken for the last tor on the west of the Sourton Tors, overlooking East Tor Farm. Curiously named, both as a separate tor and as East Tor, this tor is not east of anything of note on Dartmoor, on the contrary, being right on the edge of the borders. Feature 50. The Sourton Tors, at 440 metres. Beginning at Sourton village at the church, walk uphill to the southeast. You will cross a bridge over the Granite Way long distance path, which used to be the old railway line. Keep going uphill through the gate and the landscape gradually opens out to open moorland and the base of the majestic and towering Sourton Tors. This is actually a group of several tors on a stepped terrace. From the dual carriageway at Sourton Cross, these peaks seem large, reaching 440 metres at the top trigonometry point. You can consider several of the tors we visit hereafter, such as Branscombe's Loaf, Hunt Tor and Kitty Tor, to be an ever higher staircase of hills, each higher than the last in this pseudo-ridge. The climb from the base at Sourton to the first terrace step, which contains a line of Sourton Tors, is a steep climb from this direction. To make it easier on yourself, you can pick a slightly gentler slope by tackling them from the north at Prewley Moor and the old dugouts of the iceworks. This is a spectacular area, and on this lower step you can continue further west to reach East Tor, which is defined as a separate tor but is very close to Sourton Tors. At either ends of the plateau of the first step, which contains 6 or so tors, ascend another steep step to reach 7 more tors and the trig point, with excellent views around you. Feature 51. Shelston Tor. From the top of the trig point on the Sourton Tors, take yourself on a short walk east into a strangely hemispherical bowl in the landscape known as Corn Hole. Shelston Tor is a low-hanging cluster of rocks overlooking the West Oakmont River and dwarfed by all the tors towering around it, such as Blacker Tor and Branscombe's Loaf. The latter tor can be reached by ascending the crater edge of Corn Hole, taking a crescent route first south, then veering west to the top. For a voyage of discovery, walk along the river southeast from the tor to pass under the slipper stones, and pass by Blacker Tor Copse, a twisty woods on the other side of the river. Where it ends is the wreck of a World War II era Liberator bomber. Feature 52. Corn Hole Rocks at 390 metres. A good way to access the largest rocks of this minor tor, Corn Hole Rocks, is to start at the trig point atop Sourton Tors. Then head due east. You will notice you're heading towards the left side of the towering Corn Ridge, atop which sits Branscombe's Loaf Tor, and you come to the peculiar feature of a large bowl in the terrain. This area is known as Corn Hole. Across on the other rim of the bowl from you, you will see most plainly the rocks of Shelston Tor. You should place yourself inside this bowl, at the bottom, and there are a couple of tracks to do so, although the terrain off track is not bad here. Near the centre of the bottom of this crater, but just a little bit up from the flat, you may be able to locate the low rocks of Corn Hole. This is by no means a grand feature, perhaps having rolled down off the cliff here in the long past, as there are two patches on the higher up lips of the bowl where other small gatherings of rocks reside. Perhaps a tor used to be perched up here. The rim of the crater is a good way to climb up to Corn Ridge. Feature 53. Corn Tor on Corn Ridge. From the trig point atop the Sourton Tors, look rearward to the southeast, away from Sourton village and toward the moor. You will immediately notice the much grander hill that towers over you. This is Corn Ridge. Head toward it and pick a path off toward the right and prepare for a very steep climb. The rocks you may already be able to see glistening at the top right of this hill are a small affair, but make up Corn Tor. With perseverance, you can visit them. Feature 54. Branscombe's Loaf at 537 metres high. From the Sourton Tor's trig point, as aforementioned, Corn Ridge towers behind you. Try climbing this very steep slope, more justified to the left side. This is one of the most difficult climbs on Dartmoor's western line, second only to the climb at Arms Tor. The terrain itself is not difficult, only the steepness. Once you reach the top of the hill, it broadens to a plateau, the edges of which offer great views, particularly over Meldon Reservoir in the north, off towards Yes Tor 1 in the east, and off towards Great Links Tor to the south. After ascending, it shouldn't be difficult to spot the slightly elongated man-high pancake stack of rocks that forms the main stack of Branscombe's Loaf, as well as a lower set of rocks west of it. This tor has an old mythical tale about the devil attached to it, which can be read in such places as the website Dartmoor Legends. This tor also sits above the large bowl feature Corn Hole, which is to the north-northeast and can be steadily descended to reach Shelston Tor far below. Feature 55. The Slipper Stones. From Shelston Tor, walk southeast following the River West Oakmont to pass underneath the Slipper Stones, which are large flat stones embedded in the hill, which sometimes catch the sunlight. Getting to the top of them is trickier, as the top of this side of the hill, known as Corn Ridge, is notoriously boggy in patches, and sometimes hard to traverse. There are some stones, with a little patience here, that are near the top that you can reach by starting at Branscombe's Loaf, main stack, and heading southeast. When you are in line with Blacker Tor, seen on the other side of the West Oakmont Valley, head nearer to the edge of the hill slope to see the stones. Landmarks are difficult to judge here. I would not advise trying to reach Stenger Tor from this angle, due to the bogs. Number 56. Woodcock Tor. Referring to the guide to take you to Gren Tor, instead of leaving the Rattlebrook tramway after crossing the small river lid, stay on it and continue walking. The tramway will first curve to the right. Pay attention to how it turns. As it begins to curve to the left after this, that is your cue to walk off into the grass to the right of the track and head a few meters downhill to the unseen and camouflaged tor. A small gathering of rocks here marks the modest Woodcock Tor, sharing its name with the hill rising high above it. Number 57. Gren Tor. While it is possible to reach Gren Tor from the Sourton Tors by taking paths to the right which run south at the base of Corn Ridge, I would instead advise reaching this tor via the Rattlebrook tramway. To reach this, get yourself to the Fox and Hounds pub on the A386. You cannot actually park in the pub parking, unfortunately, without sampling their delights, but you can drive on a small bumpy track between the pub buildings to a 2-car parking spot via gate. Walk through this and head left up the King Way, bypassing to the west of the globular hill Great Nodden, and then the track you're on becomes the Rattlebrook Tramway from that point on, a dismantled old peat miners' railway. This is a longer but more beautiful walk, and easier to navigate on the gravel track. Follow the tramway to a U-turn kink before you reach Corn Ridge and the Sourton Tors, then follow it around the U-turn to come back on yourself. The track now wraps around the hills of both Corn Ridge and Woodcock Hill on their south sides. After crossing the young stages of the River Lid near its source up here, there is a small but difficult to see track in the grasses to your left, off the tramway. Corn Tor will be the first tor just here off the track, a grassy hump over rocks, with some boggy areas surrounding it, with great views of the stickleback of Great Lynx Tor. Feature 58, Hunt Tor, at 562 metres. Check the guide for how to reach Corn Tor. You will need it, as that is the first step. Once at Corn Tor, try and get back to the track in the grass you were on. Do this by heading to the highest rocks, then turning left to face northeast. A couple of metres away from the rocks lies the track you need. Follow the track deeper into Dartmoor, southeast. It will take you all the way to Hunt Tor, and the track splits the tor in two. You can stay on this track to reach Kitty Tor, or stay here and check out Hunt Tor's remote and mysterious stacks on the wilderness of Woodcock Hill. A warning for this tor is personally advised. Directly south of this tor, between here and the Rattlebrook Tramway, is the worst terrain I have so far experienced on Dartmoor, and certainly the worst between landmarks on the Western Line. It is a mixture of bog, long grass, hard material and soft material, and the ground itself undulates regularly between tall and short in very short intervals. Due to the grass in spring or summer, you lose vision of where your foot is and do not easily know what is coming next. Take care. Feature 59, Kitty Tor, at 584 metres. From Hunt Tor, follow the track in the grass that bisects that tor, heading due east-northeast. Do not take a similar fork in the track due east, which you may be able to see takes you down into pits. The left fork is the one you need. After a moderately long walk, you will reach the lower rocks of Kitty Tor, with a military observation outpost beside them. This is the best area for if you wanted to reach Stengator, the camel, downhill to the north. This lower stack offers good views over the now more distant West Oakmont River Valley and to Fordslands Ledge, and off to Lynx Tor, the Sphinx. Turn back to the right facing south and take a short walk uphill to the actual top of the tor, a flagpole on some low rocks. You are very high up here indeed by Dartmoor standards, at 562 metres. This tor marks the top of the Amycombe Hill, a very long hill that spreads north to south and levels out between Hare Tor 1 and Little Neset. Feature number 60, Stengator. Colloquially named the Camel, amongst other names, Stengator lies roughly around the edge of the boggy hilltop that falls down into the West Oakmont River Valley, and is opposite Fordsland Ledge on the other side, a satellite tor of High Willhays. Get yourself to Kitty Tor's lower stack, and take the track north downhill for the best chance of reaching it. Pack your waterproof boots and prepare yourself to survive boggy terrain, as this tor is surrounded on all sides by bog. The rocks have a distinctive and interesting shape, but to get very close without wading into treacherous watery ground is difficult. Additional notes and firing ranges. None of the tors in this zone lie within any firing range. You may often see rangers and diggers along the inner moor parts of the Rattlebrook tramway attempting peat restoration work in an attempt to encourage wildlife.